Thank you everyone for coming. We're going to record this session. It's actually automatically being recorded right now. And then we're going to put this on our website. So today we've got another edition of our Tompkins County Council of Governments Community Choice Aggregation Working Group webinar series. So today we're going to be hearing about some participant experiences. We've got Jacob Fox with us from the town of Geneva and Dan Welsh representing Westchester Power. Some quick Zoom housekeeping. So as I said, the webinar is being recorded. You'll be able to find it on our website, southerntiercec.org after this. We'd prefer it if folks would use the Q&A feature in order to type their questions. You can do that anytime in the webinar, and we'll answer questions at the end of each person's kind of presentation. The chat can be used for logistical, other communications. Theodora, my colleague, will be monitoring that. We'll be asking the questions during the Q&A. But otherwise, I think we can jump right into it. So as I said, we've got two folks with us today. Jacob Fox, he's a sustainability consultant, climate smart communities coordinator with the town of Geneva. Was integral to them, engaging in the CCA, Green CCA process. And then we also have Dan Welsh, the program director for Westchester Power, who's I don't know if I would call them an admin or a pseudo admin, but they run the program over in Westchester. That's been, the first CCA and probably the most successful one in New York State to date. So we're going to start off with Jacob, talking a little bit about his experience, and then Dan's got a presentation that he'll show, and then we'll open it up to folks' questions. So Jacob, take it away.
Thanks, Terry. Thanks so much for having me. My name is Jacob Fox, and I work with the town of Geneva in New York, and that's at the top of Seneca Lake. So we have engaged in a few different community programs. We've done community choice aggregation from the town level, and we have over 95% participation in that. I believe it might be higher than that. And we also have a community CDG program, which is community distributed generation, that we call Geneva Community Power. So I'm involved from the town side. I do other things on top of renewable energy for the town. I work with waste initiatives, I work with stormwater and other things. And so this renewable energy came naturally onto my plate. So I was engaged by Jewel Assets, who is based down in Katona, New York, and they engaged us about the community choice aggregation program, and we were very excited about that. And we were so excited by that they actually felt that they could pilot their CDG program with us, which was called Geneva Community Power, and we made that a community initiative. It was an opt-in initiative, which is different from the CCA in being an opt-out initiative. And so we actually launched the two programs almost simultaneously. And we learned a lot by doing that along the way. And, I'd love to, fill in any information from the town level about, our experiences with that. We had a lot of community events and we had education sessions. We had over 10 different events where we engaged with the community. We had one-on-ones. I was meeting with people in office hours at the town hall of Geneva. So we really tried to offer as much education resources as possible because these were new initiatives that were very exciting in their ability to achieve some of our green initiatives, but also had some financial benefits as well. So we wanted, to people to be really understanding of all of the implications. So we engaged our community, and we had a goal of 400 subscribers for the CDG program that was called Geneva Community Power. And we were able to do that. We were able to achieve 400 subscribers, and that program is currently already running. It's been a little bit over 6 months, I believe. And the way that we let people know about that program was we galvanized our community under the idea that if we could get 400 subscribers, that we would get $25,000 to put towards a sustainability project. That was kind of an open-ended question at first, but we used those events as as an opportunity to engage with our community, to learn what sustainability initiatives they felt most interested and drawn to. And the one that ended up winning out was the stormwater discussion. So about halfway through our sign-up period, we basically decided that we were doing a stormwater project if we were to get the $25,000. And so that helped give us a really nice boost, and we were able to achieve the 400. And we're in the process of citing a project it's going to be an upland retention project, which is a bioretention strategy where you build an earthen berm to capture water to reduce erosion and nutrient loading in the lakes. And so we use the education opportunities to talk to people about these stormwater projects and say, hey, you can actually help this project by signing up for renewable energy. And people were so excited about it. I mean, our Geneva Community Power Program was a huge community initiative. And so, that was the CDG side, the Geneva Community Power side. And then the CCA side, the Community Choice Aggregation, that was, it had less community interaction. We had our local law, we passed resolutions, and we held informational sessions and meetings about it. But then at some point, we went out to bid on a price, and we ended up using that price. And then we ended up, sending a letter out to all of our residents saying, we're at the next step in our timeline. We passed the local law. And so, there was a lot of steps to get up to this. So our community wasn't, there's always people who are going to say, oh, what did you sign me up for? But we had a lot of touch points with the community. So I think we only had about 10 or 15 people who, really called and were, oh, I just got this letter saying, you signed us up for something that we had no idea about. And we said, okay, no problem. Like, we explained it to them, again, and then said, if you would like to opt out, you can very easily opt out. There's no penalties. And they, either were able to be convinced and stay in, or they easily opted out. And now we were a little bit nervous, when those first people came out, and we thought that it was, going to be a snowball effect, but it turned out to not be. There was, some concerned citizens. Some of them actually turned and were really supportive of it. Some of them, just decided to leave and were, happy with the exiting process. And so basically that CCA has been now for almost a year, I believe. And so, we like to say both of our programs are successful and are running very efficiently. We have two different partners in this project. We have Jewel Assets, who was kind of, the originator and the overseer, but then we also have a local partner, Rocktricity, based out of Rochester, New York. And they really helped. Actually, they were the one who originally introduced the idea, and they brought Jewel to the table. And so they are our community partner, and they're the ones that answer all the calls from residents about questions or concerns. And they've been incredible partners. So we really it's a collaborative effort. Our town supervisor, Mark Venuti, is very supportive of it. He really saw the vision early on, and was a huge asset for galvanizing the community. He attended all of the events, and was able to talk it through with people. And by the end of it, we had our lines, and so it worked out very well. And so I see a question here where it says, Jacob, what percentage of residents were confused about CCA when it first started up? Who fielded the calls and helped them understand? It was a combination. I, in my capacity as town coordinator, was fielding calls, and, people know me in the town. So, I was able to be kind of the first line of defense to say, this isn't some out of town company coming in here, do anything. We've worked with them to do this, and I've been one of those resources, but Rocktricity has been the bigger resource, and who has actually taken all of the answering and that whole process. If people call me who have had experience with it, but for the most part, Rocktricity handles all of the calls from now on. And then so when it first started out, we tried to shift everyone to Rocktricity and say, they're the ones with all the answers. I know, a good amount, but I always, am humble in the fact that I don't know as much as Jewel and Rocktricity. And so, I would field calls with someone and say, I don't know the answer to that, but here's who you can call. And Rocktricity was the next one in that list. And they are incredibly good with answering the phone and talking people through it. And so, they were our community partner on that. Even though they're based out of Rochester, it's only about 45 minutes to an hour away. And they're also working with other communities in the Ontario County and Monroe County area. So they're kind of like our regional coordinator for this. And so then they also had the backup of Jewel Assets, who, is, if maybe y'all are, have spoken about them, but we're, they provided it all. I mean, with Geneva Community Power, the CDG initiative, and the CCA initiatives, I believe the website is still up, genevacommunitypower.com, and Jewel Assets took care of all of that. They took care of the website making, the events. They paid for the events. We helped give, recommendations about places, wineries or restaurants or other places that, we felt the community appreciated, and they paid for it. They would drive up actually from New York City to answer, the tough questions. So really the only resource that is a little bit different in our experience was having me on staff. So I get paid 10 hours a week for the town of Geneva. This is a part-time job. I also run an industrial vermicomposting facility. So I only was able to work. I only work with the town 10 hours a week, but that's 10 hours more than a lot of communities have. So I was able to devote a significant amount of those hours during certain times as community outreach. And attending the events, etc. So, but then Jewel was willing to hire local people, and there's a few part-time 10-hour, 15-hour per week opportunities here where the community loves having someone with office hours, like somewhere where they can show up on a consistent basis and ask questions so they don't feel lost, and they really don't like having the phone call thing is great and especially if someone answers it consistently and returns calls, but for a lot of the older community who either didn't feel comfortable with talking on the phone. And that was also another thing is a lot of the older community in Geneva also wasn't proficient with the internet. So we went through a whole, we kind of over teched ourselves at the start, and we said, we're going to make this website. We're going to, bust it out over Facebook ads and all of those things. And, people will know about it. But, it actually turned out that the most successful things in our area were newspaper ads, some of these events, and then, that having a personal touch where, hey, you can show up to the Town Hall of Geneva. I every month I changed it just because of my time, but, it's always helpful if you can have the same time. But I was, for the most part, Mondays at 1, you could come into the Town Hall of Geneva and ask, Jacob Fox questions about this program. You could also, I helped sign them up as well so they could show up to the town hall with their information, and really it was just their address and their billing information, and so I would be able to walk them through that, and we'd get them signed up on the spot actually, so they wouldn't have to worry about it. And then we have another question here. What was involved in the whole startup phase before signing the contract with Jewel? What board or community concerns did you encounter? How did you address? How much staff time was involved in coordinating? So the whole story was I met Rocktricity at a climate summit, I believe, and they explained in Brighton up in Rochester, and they explained to me this program. I invited Sue Smith from Rocktricity down to the town of Geneva, and we had a meeting with the town supervisor to express the to explain the program, and our town supervisor, understood it. And then we reached out to the town board. Our first meeting, our first vote was actually 4-1. We had one of our town board members who was kind of skeptical. He said, I've experienced, I read, something about this happening in Michigan and California, and I'm concerned that something bad might happen to our community. And so we addressed those concerns. I feel confident in the New York State program and how it's run. I don't know about the Michigan and California programs, but that was just one concern that we had. So that was our first initial vote, and one concern there. We had, but then Rocktricity came down for a town board meeting. So they did a presentation in front of our town board. That led to a town vote. So, as far as total staff time, it was really me and the town supervisor that spent the majority of the time. But it wasn't a lot. I mean, with our CDG program, it ended up being more. That's the Geneva Community Power Program, just because it was an opt-in program. And so, we really had to get the word out there. People really wanted to be sold on the idea. And so that was a little bit different between. And so our supervisor, he's a great community member, and so he was willing to attend these events, talk it through. So I was actually looking at the chat function. Now I'm looking at the Q&A function, and so I'm gonna hit some of these questions now. What was the length of time between first exploration you had and when the CCA went up? That probably 6 months to a year. I wish I had the exact timing on this, but we had the local law. There's some certain timelines there. Various things. You can get the Rocktricity or whomever the person is to come in and talk, but then the town board might want to vote on it a month from then, and they're voting on a local law, so that is a month away, and then that local law happens, and then once we were also one of the first ones to do it. So we were in I always called CCA a buying club, because that's what you're galvanizing together with your community and with other communities to get cheaper prices in the market. So we at one point, it was just the town of Geneva and the town of Lima, so there wasn't enough critical mass, and so we actually waited until some Rochester communities, and so we went in this like distributed bid, but it ended up being more people, so that added some time onto it as well. And so I want to say first exploration to the town signing off on it, let's say 4 to 6 months, and then once the town had officially signed off on it, I think it was another 6 months before we actually went out to bid. What is the month annual charges from Rocktricity and Jewel paid by the town of Geneva for their services? They were not paid anything, actually. They are getting paid through if the program is successful. So there was no official payment made from the town of Geneva to Rocktricity or Jewel. So next question, can you explain more about distributed generation product? What was the end result? How is it benefiting the community? So that is a CDG. And so this is a really interesting thing. And there actually was recently a legislation passed that is going to allow for CDG programs to be opt out now. But while we were doing it, it was an opt-in program. So we had to create a program where we had a goal of 400 people. And we knew that if we could reach 400 people, then a solar facility in Owego, New York could get built. So, you know, we saw that 400 number. We immediately got about 200 people in. And then the last 200, we really had to, get stuff out to the community, walk people through, a host of different things. So we ended up getting 400 people. There were some learning curves along the way with how people like to get signed up, how people like to pay. A lot of people like to pay by check. So, it doesn't make the online sign up thing as easy. So, that you kind of have to walk them through that. And the end result, we got 400 people. The town of Geneva got $25,000 to put towards a stormwater project that we're in the process of citing, and we're going to use that $25,000 to get a $100,000 grant, hopefully, working with our soil and water conservation district. So we're really looking to make that money work for us. And then how has it been? I mean, our community also saves 10%. So that was a huge thing. We said, hey, if you sign up for Geneva Community Power, you personally are going to be guaranteed to save 10% off your electricity bills. And you will also help the town of Geneva earn $25,000. So that is coming true. All of the people, the 400 folks in the program are their electrical bills are 10% lower. They're not getting rich off of it, but it's something. And, they save money for doing a good thing, as well as the stormwater thing. So, our community, there was learning curves. It was new. We rolled out the programs together, and we were one of the first communities to do it. And so, but now anyone who does it can just, point at the town of Geneva and say, and we can also recommend various things about, the sign-in and the events and all of those different things. So our last question I see here, the CCA started as an opt-in program, but seems to have evolved into an opt-out program as some people received letters, were upset. I'm sorry, I'm sorry if I didn't say that correctly. We had two programs. The CCA program was always an opt-out program that, is enabled through that New York State legislation that enables the CCA program. And so that one was always opt-out. I mentioned that we received, 10 or 15 phone calls about people being concerned, and we immediately either were able to, convince them to stay, or, they were able to opt out really easily and successfully. And so our CDG program was an opt-in program. And so, that one from the start, we were looking for buy-in. So, no one felt, scared or upset by that program because, they had to buy into it. But, what I just mentioned there and my last bit was that there is legislation saying that you can make the CDG program, like our Geneva Community Program, you can make it an opt-out program. And so that means that, your whole community potentially is, automatically enrolled. And, with our community, we might have we might have waited and done that, almost because, we would have gotten more than $25,000. The CDG program as well, we try to tie it to the community solar aspect. So, Irene has this question, am I understanding? So this kind of dovetails into that. Am I understanding correctly that the community solar project was already being built unrelated to the fact that CCA was being looked into? So my whole understanding of this whole CCA and CDG program is that there is a bunch of solar facilities out there, solar companies out there that are already have everything in line to build a facility, but it's really hard for them to get clients. So they're just sitting there not building the facilities because it's I think it's something like $250,000 they're spending in customer acquisition costs, and it's not even working some of the time. So with the Owego facility and with some of these other ones that we were talking about, but the Owego facility in general, they were kind of sitting there. They had essentially a shovel-ready facility, but they didn't want to build it unless they had subscribers. So, once we were able to achieve, that 400, it kind of gave them that amount of certainty that they were able to build that facility. And that was kind of a selling point along the way. Owego's not too far away from where we're at in Geneva. So, we were like, we're going to create this facility in New York State. There's a certain amount of, community resiliency, understanding where your energy comes from, that whole discussion. And so we were able to point to that, Owego facility versus the CCA aspect. You're actually just buying into the grid. So there's no, individual facility that you can point to. Although I might not be right about that, because maybe Westchester, I remember there being a discussion about, in the original bids, there's an opportunity to specify what types of power you buy. And maybe there's one in downstate that bought mostly hydroelectric. So, but we didn't have that. We were just looking for low price green energy. But now that we've done it, there's a lot of reflections that I have. And so I think I've used up my 30 minutes just about perfectly. So thanks so much. And if you have any other questions, let me know.
Awesome. Thanks, Jacob. So we'll turn to Dan and Dan's presentation and answer some questions. And then if you have any lingering questions for Dan and Jacob, we can ask them after we've gone through Dan's presentations and the questions with him. So thank you again, Jason, and Dan, take it away.
Could somebody enable me for screen sharing?
You should be able to. Hold on one second here.
Okay.
Yeah, you should be able to.
Okay, there it is. Okay, here I go. And come on, kick it off. There we go. All right. Well, thanks everybody for inviting me. Tompkins County has always been something on our radar screen, because you guys are doing a lot of innovative work up in this area, and we're happy to have you come down and do some presentations with us sometime. It'd be great, and very happy to hear Jacob's presentation and all of your experiences there. And what we have down in Westchester is not going to be exactly what you're going to experience. So certain things are a little different, but maybe by looking at those differences, it'll flesh out some useful information for you. So maybe the first difference is just scale. And we have 43 municipalities in Sustainable Westchester. It's a membership-based nonprofit. So all the municipalities in Westchester are in, except for that one little orange one up there, and Westchester County itself as a member. And our programming range that we delve in are the same areas that you guys are working on up here. The energy programs, Westchester Power, of course, we're going to talk about, and I'll get into community solar a little bit, what we're doing there as well. And then all the other side of things where if we're going to fully take advantage of those energy solutions, we need to electrify everything, and that's buildings and vehicles. So we're active in those areas as well. And of course, can't have a sustainability organization without the material side of things and waste management and all that. As far as the CCA program is concerned, ours goes back to activity in 2015 and even before, in trying to put together what would become the first pilot in the state. And we were very lucky, again, this is unique to us, to have Mike Gordon of Joule Assets on our board at the time, and a bunch of really capable people. And we actually got it approved in the through the legislative channel first, after a hustling with a whole bunch of municipalities and getting support and everything. And then it got kicked over. The governor actually vetoed it because he wanted it to go to the PSC, to the Public Service Commission, to go through those channels and become available broadly throughout the state. So by the time we launched in April of 2016, the so-called general order had been issued, which did enable CCA throughout the state. So we've been going now for over 4 years, and we have 2 utility districts, NYSEG and Con Ed. Most of it's in Con Ed, but we do have 5 NYSEG towns. And we renewed those contracts back in 2019, 2 separate contracts, and we just went through, and I'm just recovering from the latest bids for what will be a 3rd round of contracts. So I'm happy to report that we succeeded with that and are ready to launch the new contracts. And these are the municipalities that are participating. And I'm not crazy about this color scheme. The blue are the ones that are participating. And as I said, there are 27 municipalities that are in the program at this point. And the great majority of them have selected the renewable energy default, which is basically standard power matched with renewable energy certificates registered through the New York State General Asset Tracking System, NIGATS. And this is in order to make the green claims and be able to talk about having 100% emissions-free supply. You need to, the DPS, the Department of Public Service, requires you to purchase through the DPS's NIGATS system in order to do that. So that's part of our contracts. And now in this new round, one of the 2 towns that was still on the standard supply flipped over to renewables. So we're almost there with 100% of the municipalities on board there. Oh, and there's the numbers. And we have over 115,000 total accounts in the program. Westchester County's got almost 1 million people in it. In the participating Westchester Power municipalities represent about 330,000 households or so. No, I'm sorry, 330, households. So it's a big scale that we're talking about here, which again, maybe a little bit of a difference. And this, of course, is what it's all about. It's about the CO2 mitigation, the greenhouse gases. And of course, when we're presenting this, we always like to throw those equivalent numbers out, because who knows what a ton of CO2 actually represents. So they're pretty big numbers when you get to the scale that we're talking about. And as far as we know, these were some of the largest renewable energy purchases that the state had seen. So again, to putting my hat on, trying to think about what we can bring to the discussion. What we had different perhaps was an organization that was in place in Sustainable Westchester for, at the time it was about 6 or 7 years, and we had already rolled through a number of other programming successes. So our municipal principals, already had a comfort level with us. So by the time we brought this new project, and as I described, we had expertise on our board. But as we started, what we did not have to help us with this work was any kind of a regulatory framework for it. And there was also no such thing at the time as a third-party administrator, because there was no program in New York State. So it was built from scratch, which is part of the reason why we are distinguished. At the beginning, Terry was talking, or Dick was talking about us being a pseudo administrator. We do perform all the roles of these administrator organizations that are now out there helping municipalities put these ventures together. So that's one thing that makes us different is we are both the local trusted source, on the street and working with the municipalities and working in the communities. And we're also performing all the duties of the administrator with compliance, and we take the phone calls in-house, and basically every aspect of running the program. And by putting together the CCA, it really did launch us into a new territory and a new era for the organization. Prior to that, we were virtual. A lot of the work that was done was the board members were doing the work, and when we launched, it was clear at the scale of the effort that was required. We were going to need staff, and we ended up, we have an actual physical location now, and paid staff, again serving all those roles and all the of course accompanying functions that any company would have to have in order to keep things rolling. What it also did for us, is provide a new tool for engaging with the public, and so it was important as we did all this and became, an organization with bricks and mortar, that we always kept in mind that, it's the mission. It's a tool. The CCA is not an end in itself. We're going to try and leverage that as much as we can. So it's really a platform for engaging on a broader level of activity. And I think I have some more stuff about community solar, but that really started very early after the launch as well. It's interesting because we are operating sort of as a business, but because our principals are the municipalities themselves, so we're kind of a hybrid organization. So we have to, operate in a business-like manner. We need to stay cash positive and think in those terms, but we represent the municipalities. So we have to be able to switch those mindsets. The advantage that we feel playing this all roles, packaged up into one, bring to us is that we feel that every time somebody calls us on the phone with one of those questions about the program, that we've just built another node in the community energy network. So even if it's somebody who doesn't have any particular interest in it, maybe they want to opt out, but we have those conversations like Jacob described, where they may come in sort of, negative or, questioning. And at the very least, when they go out, they understand, what the organization is, what the mission is, what we're trying to accomplish, and that it's not a world government plot or any such, scary thing. And so we really, really value those interactions. That's part of building up the totality of the programming. And then, we serve as a general educational source. We get calls when the ESCOs are out there making cold calls and misrepresenting things, or knocking on seniors' doors and saying you got to quick sign up because Con Ed's going to cut off your power or whatever. So, we get those calls. We help to orient people on those. We go and hold seminars at senior centers to help educate them on their bill. And, we do have Spanish language customer service. We that was prior to about 7 months ago. That was primarily to referring them back to the ESCO customer service. But now we have it on staff, and we've had some great interactions at events and whatnot. We're going to make a lot more of that going forward, because we found that folks that are in those communities, they care just as much as anybody else, but they're not necessarily getting the message or being talked to about it. So we look at that as a huge opportunity going forward in the future. Again, CCA is not, the fact that you formed it and you're going out and you bought power, and that's kind of CCA 1.0 as people are talking about, but we've been from the very start trying to build on top of that. So, the CDG regulations were already out, very soon, or around the time when we launched. So we locked in on that very early as an obvious next step. And we also had, as you guys probably have, many of your communities have, a lot of experience with the Solarize campaigns, where we ran those for years and years, individual rooftop solar campaigns in various communities, and had amassed, a huge list of people who wanted to do it but couldn't because their roof orientation was off and everything. So we saw this CDG thing coming out, and we started talking to people, and we eventually hooked up with some developers, and I think our first project that we got, and we essentially, just played on our CCA exposure to act as an acquisition agent. I think Jacob indicated, the projects need to get people subscribed. So our first project, I think, was at the end of 2018, and we've been building since then. And it's, as Jacob said, it's all opt-in right now. So it's, one subscription at a time. People, you go out and you campaign, and you get people signed up. The developers see that you're doing this, and it's a virtuous spiral that starts, and we get more and more capacity, and we go out and we sign that up, and by doing that, we're pushing those new projects to get built. This has positioned us for what Jacob described is coming. The opt-in or the opt-out version of community solar is just now coming to fruition. Jewel has basically the first instance of it is just launching now, that they crafted through blood, sweat, and tears, and working individually with the DPS on their plan. But the PSC is going to be sort of finalizing a white paper and the regulations that have been refined behind this, and we're watching that. We're building our own implementation plan. The utilities are at different positions as to whether they're ready for it. You have to have consolidated billing on the bill for the thing to work. It's where all the transactions that were individual separate contracts now can happen on the bill, but they have to do all this work to enable that. They're ordered to have that done by the end of the first quarter next year. So that's kind of what we're leading up to. So we're building it as an opt-in program right now, and all the education work that we're doing and the campaigns that we're doing around that are going to support a very smooth transition to that. And we want to focus initially, especially in the Con Ed zone, where we won't have enough capacity to just dump on everybody right away. We're going to focus on the low-income customers for that initial capacity that we do have. So we're very excited to be able to bring some benefits to those sectors that have not really had a chance to be a part of the solution. And any of those customers who are currently in the HEAP assistance programs are not even able to be part of the CCA up to now, because the regs require that you have a guaranteed savings product for that, which is not something that's really possible with a standard sort of fixed price ESCO purchase. So it's going to open up new access for those communities to be a part of the solution and get some of these discount savings that are available. Again, the electrification side of things is the other side of that coin. We're going to green our supply, then we're going to take advantage of that for our everyday living in our buildings. And on that side of things, we're running the Heat Smart program, which is part of the NYSERDA organization efforts for promoting clean heating and cooling. That's the building energy efficiency. Plus, there's a very strong emphasis on the heat pumps, both the air source and the ground source. So we've run a number of those campaigns, and we're doing more as we speak. And there's also a commercial side where we have some NYSERDA funding for basically organizing to bring commercial multifamily developers to the table and let them know that there are alternatives, which in our region is particularly important because in Con Ed, you may have heard, we actually have a natural gas moratorium, which threw everything into chaos, but it did bring a high level of focus to those other solutions. So we're out there doing that as well. On the transportation side, we've been promoting electric vehicles since 2016, and working with dealers to secure discounts and helping the municipalities find ways to get chargers installed. So that's a critical piece of the electrify everything. And then for us, especially again, down in our Con Ed territory, we're never going to have enough capacity locally to actually green those electrons. So, right now we're, as I say, CCA 101, we're buying RECs. That's great. It's New York State. They're increasing renewable energy demand in the net. It's jobs, it's taxes. But we do want to push the dirty electrons out of our grid ultimately on the actual underlying supply. So, but in order to do that, we're going to have to open up the pipelines. There's simply, we're too dense down here. There's not enough room, we don't have the conditions for wind farm, and there's not enough room for solar. So we're going to need more transmission capacity. So that already for, a good long while has been the focus of some of our business development efforts. And we do have a good bit of maturity in those, in the work that's going on around that, and could easily, with our load, easily drive a transmission project. So we're hoping that we'll get some breakthroughs on that within the next year or so for new capacity on transmission. And then of course there's the kind of sexy little things that are going on. We have what we are pretty sure is the first residential demand response program in New York State that we just piloted this past summer period, and very successfully, and we'll be looking to a full rollout with the next peak periods. But that's something that we're very excited about as a very logical adjunct to the rest of what we're doing. And of course, it's important for reducing the demand for these dirty peaker plants, and it's a revenue generating opportunity for participants, on average down in our area. And again, the numbers are different down where we are because, our rates are higher, et cetera, et cetera. But what we're looking at now looks like it could be, $100, $200 in cash for participants for responding to maybe 2 events a year where, you're gonna reduce your usage for, some 2-3 hour peak event during the summer. So that's just a nice little kicker for our participants And then little sort of technical fun things where we've got a project which is coming together, and we have some nice sort of money to help support it for our little building that we are in Mount Kisco and the Mount Kisco village offices, where we're going to combine solar on the roof with battery storage and charging. And the battery storage will, it'll be high-speed charger, and the battery storage will shave off the peaks, which normally would raise the cost of that high-speed charging, as an operating thing. So that's kind of fun. That's happening, and actually we're now combining it with a geothermal project, and that's going to be one big package, and could be kind of an interesting model for these. There's kind of a medium-sized building, so all these things kind of swirl around the base of the CCA activity. Again, I just mentioned that that expanding access and equity is a high priority for us, as it is for everybody right now. We've let those things lie unattended to for too long. So we're really excited that the opt-out community solar is going to provide a mechanism for making headway on that. And at the same time, we want to be looking at whether there are, new contract structures or, models that other people have crafted. Certainly, we love to take advantage of the pioneering work that others are doing. So maybe there's a chance to bring more equity in the form of ownership equity into the picture. And again, the elimination of those dirty peaker plants would be another contribution to environmental justice goals. And what I do like to emphasize with people, at least per our experience, it's you have to be careful about representing CCA as a real savings vehicle in any sense. Now, community solar aside, because once we get to opt-out community solar, there are guaranteed savings available there. But I think the two programs, you're going to need both, because you have to address the supply as well. But community solar is like a spectacular enhancement, because it does bring the guaranteed savings, and it brings additionality. If you're like us and on the supply side, you're still buying, you're buying New York State RECs. These are tier 2 RECs with legacy facilities. It's important that we're buying them and we're pushing the market. But the additionality that, you're not pushing new construction in the way, say, the tier 1 RECs that are backing these new facilities do. And so the community solar helps with that. Anyway, I'm rambling a little bit here, but the point is that on the supply side, it was not a big winner. We saved money in our first contract, and then it got wiped out this last contract. We signed the contract in the beginning of 2019, and 2 months later, gas prices collapsed, and we've been in a net deficit versus the utility and versus the dirty utility power. So it's apples to oranges. But you see at the end of that curve, we've been behind, and so it's really important to position it correctly, and that, not set the expectations that, oh yeah, you're buying in bulk, everybody's going to save money. There was a lot of evolution of consciousness that had to happen, and this last re-up with our towns took a lot of time to remind them about what the real goals were. They struggled. There was pressure on them, and hesitancy, at least in some communities, about re-upping. And I'm really proud that they came through the way they did, because it would have been easy to say, we'll just wait and see. So again, the CDG is a great, savior in terms of adding economic improvements. But in the meantime, while that's happening, the tier 2 rec price is actually going up. So it's kind of maybe eating away a little bit of more of those savings and making that gap with the variable price utility pricing, increase. So those challenges are there. That's why it's like really critical that, you position this and you as a platform for additional exciting stuff and to achieve all these other goals. One way to help mollify these concerns about the rates, and again, our rates are higher, so you look at these numbers and you say these are crazy numbers already because it's much cheaper upstate. But if we go out on the Department of State's Power to Choose site and we pick a comparable term in renewable energy, you'll see actually our pricing fares very well versus what's offered in the market. So we point that out to the municipalities. You can't just point to the utility pricing. You got to look at comparable products, and we're going out for bids, and we're getting good prices on it. So just to sum up, our challenges, because you're looking at going into this, and Jacob spoke to most of these probably. You send out the letters, people throw them away, they think it's junk mail, or they just don't get to it. And then, 6 months later, they see it on their bill and they say, what happened? Who put me into this? This happens. We get calls about it. We love those calls. We try to work our way through them and get people in the right place. You're working with ESCOs. There could be hiccups. We've had data issues and things like that. As long as you're vetting them, they want to do well in this business, and they'll fix up what happens, but things can happen. All the data work you have to do with the data, it's very voluminous. Just trying to report on, did we save money? Did we not? We spent a lot of time on that. We're building a back-end system now with the firm, with NRX, who does, we do all our customer service out of their system now, but we're going to be loading up all the sort of price to compare information so we can spit out our reports easy. We spend a ton of time just working in spreadsheets and everything to report on how we're doing on the savings. Talking about green power can get you just really tied into knots when you get this conversation on the phone. You don't know, does this person just want, yeah, it's green energy, or when they start to ask about the RECs, then you have to explain, okay, these for every megawatt produced up there, they have to register it with the NIGATs, and your top level information has to not have people's eyes glaze over. And then you get the tendency of people to just kind of look at this as like day trading, and they look at your price and you happen to be above the utility. There are times we're below the utility, and they're freaking out. And you say, you don't know how you're performing basically until the whole contract is over. And then for us, we have so many municipalities that when we have to take care of our obligatory compliance meetings and outreach, the municipalities might have, all have their meetings on the same night. And so just getting around and getting all that done is a lot of work. And, you can't kid yourself that it's not. Again, I know that your groups may be taking on those tasks or not, depending on how you're organizing things. But it is a lot of work. And during these renewal periods, I don't get a lot of sleep. There's a lot more to. I think I should just stop there because I think we're close. But if there's questions.
Yeah, so we have a series of questions here. I hope people don't mind us running a little bit over here, but we'll try and get through. I think we got 7 or 8 questions, a mixture for both Dan and Jacob. So Theodore, if you wouldn't mind reading through them, and then they can answer them as they come.
Yeah, not a problem. So the first question that came in is, as of 2018, Constellation New Energy shows on EDP label for clean energy. how do you know if they are purchasing adequate RECs to cover renewable kilowatt usage?
I'm not sure the, oh yeah, so the EDP label for 2018 will still be representing, I didn't really touch on this. When we started, we were using Green E national RECs. Sometime after that, the DPS made clear that if you want to make the green claims in the future, you need to be buying New York State stuff. So 2018, 2017, 2016 was all Green E. We didn't start with the New York State stuff until 2019. For 2019, we now have the NIGETS reports that we can map up to our load, and that's all just coming together now. And in fact, some of it came because of petitions we made. You know, when we started this, we were the EDP reports had no way to even separate out the municipalities because they were based on the statewide portfolio for each supplier. So now they can split it out by municipality, and you'll get the reports that'll tell you if so many RECs, and each REC represents a megawatt hour, and you can check that versus your load. So that's, how you can get to that.
Great. Our next question is, please describe how the CCA provides the money to support the staff position.
So under the regs, the administration of the CCAs can be through extracting a fee out of the energy sales. And for us, I'm not sure if it's actually set out in the regs, but it's 0.1 cent per kilowatt hour for us, and one mil. So that's the administrative fee. It's also you can do your outreach for programming that helps promote the REV, the state energy policy. So basically the supplier is obliged to pay us that 0.1 cent per kilowatt hour back from their sales. So that's where the money for running everything comes from.
All right, the next one. Will HEAP recipients be exempt from community solar discounted rates?
HEAP recipients will be able to be subscribed to community solar because of the discount rates. If I'm understanding this question, so they will no longer be excluded from participation to the extent that you set it up so that they have a guaranteed savings, and that is possible with community solar. It may mean that they're in community solar and not in the underlying supply, unless you can somehow work with a supplier to come up with a blended rate that represents both or something like that. But right now that's not on the table. So it very well could mean that they're not in the supply, or maybe we'll work that out. But they, for the first time, we'll be able to have them as customers with the community solar.
All right. Can demand response work okay with renewable ESCOs?
I mean, the demand response is separate from any of these other things as we're doing it right now. It was enabled by, I guess, what they call the green button program, and the availability of the data exchange that allowed the smart meters, the AMI meter data, to become available for use in this type of programming. And so that's totally dependent on your usage, in that really granular usage, and the ability to know whether you did in fact respond to an event, and then building a system around the transactions there. So what you're doing with your ESCO in a sense is not transactionally related. And so that's why a lot of this stuff, when you're trying to enhance what you're doing with the CCA, it's not all necessarily going to be fully integrated as like it's on your bill. And that's where the communications and the marketing and there's like building up this kind of understandable picture of the world without overwhelming folks. Yet another program comes in, but it's completely compatible with whatever you're doing on the supply side.
All right. So you said that Joule is doing the First Community Solar opt-out project. Are they doing that with Westchester or some other community?
That's in another community, and I can't remember which one. Maybe Jacob remembers. Is it Genesee or I'm not sure. It's another upstate smaller community, and it's facilitated by the fact that utility has routed ahead faster on the consolidated billing. So that's why they're able to do that.
I think it's with Rockport and maybe it was Lima or Peru, one of those two. I think maybe Lima and Rockport.
Sounds good.
All right, so the next question says, I know Westchester has had a challenge being cost competitive with NYSEG. Why has it been a challenge and how is it different with Con Ed?
I don't think it's distinct to NYSEG. We had at least as big a challenge in Con Ed, and it's different from different times. So when we first launched in 2016, it was looking bad versus NYSEG, and Con Ed was like, hey, this is great. We were actually in the black and everybody was happy there. And then it kind of, in the past year, probably Con Ed's been worse and NYSEG's also been behind, but not as much. So generically and generally in terms of being competitive with the utility, I mean, obviously first we've got the rec cost, but that, we were even behind versus that. It's really hard to say. I mean, everybody's sort of, in terms of the raw power, everybody's sort of buying in the same general market, and it's how they hedge and those type of things. As I said, you're not going to hit some huge home run and fund European vacations on this in terms of a savings vehicle. So it's more of a medium for all the other things you're going to do.
All right. Can you say at this time who WC Power has contracted
tool? Again, this is, I think, the first time we've seen it. They think it's the first time for an aggregation. We're using a reverse auction platform. So we're taking our traditional RFP process. We still have a long lead up in qualifying and putting together the data that people are going to bid on and answering questions and trying to vet the suppliers in a RFI. But the final pricing submission is done via a reverse auction mechanism that's online, and where the bidders are bidding this thing down as they go forward. And it's really added energy, and it's brought really important, it's brought new bidders as part of that whole vetting process and the access to the platform. So Eligo is a new addition, and we just held the Con Ed bid on Wednesday, and Constellation will retain the contract there, but we're glad to say that we pushed them to the very limit. You watch the auction, and if you get to the end and there's a minute left and somebody makes another bid, it kicks out again. And at the end there, they were just shaving hundredths of a cent off. And so we were pretty sure that we squeezed everything out of it we could. So Constellation will still be supplying us for the Con Ed area, but we do have a new supplier coming in for the NYSEG territory.
In California, in response to CCA competition, the utilities have lowered their costs. Any evidence of that happening in New York State?
um, I there's no evidence of that. As I said, this past contract period has seen a real collapse, a historic collapse of the gas prices, and the utility prices went right down with it. And so there wasn't even like summer peak. No, there was no increase then. It's just been, pretty much pinned on the bottom. You can go back 15 years and not see prices like this. There's certainly a desire to find some conspiracy in that. I hope not. I don't think so, really. But are they responding to that? I don't know. I think their procurement is their procurement. It's supposed to be a pass through anyway, right? So I don't think so. I don't think that's a factor.
All right, and our last question for today. Can you say if there are any other ESCOs in your bidding process besides Constellation, New Energy, and Direct Energy? How many others meet your criteria?
I told you about Aligo. We also have, we had a new bidder this time, Indra Energy. And what was Genie was the last one. So those were all new entries. And they were, deemed to have the financial backing to be able to execute the contract. And so, yeah, and we were happy. Yeah, I think that is the spelling, just like Genie, the Genie of the lamp. And they all have like DBAs and all that kind of stuff, but you'll find them. But we were really happy to bring new suppliers into what's going on, because it kind of looked like it was just going to be, the behemoth Constellation and Direct, and, just trading back and forth. And now Direct's been purchased by NRG, and we're not exactly sure where they're going in terms of their interest in the CCA business. They didn't, sort of make a real big push to try and keep the NYSEG contract. It was taken by another firm. So.
All right. Well, thank you both, Dan and Jacob. Really appreciate it. If you haven't seen it, Jacob's been doing a great job answering questions via text. So take a look at those if you haven't gotten a chance. As I said before, the recording of this presentation will be on our website, southerntiercec.org. Just a quick reminder, we will be having another presentation as part of this series on October 20th. It's going to be with Paul Fenn from Local Power. I hope you'll all be able to join us. We'll be sending out those emails in the upcoming days. And then in the meantime, we'll also be sending out some links to presentations, hopefully recorded presentations on NIGATs, renewable energy certificates, and that sort of stuff. So keep an eye on your email for that. Any information, go to our website. And once again, Dan and Jacob, can't thank you enough for joining us today.